So I think I should give some fair warning for this video. There are gonna be some controversial opinions ahead, but I still thought it was important to make this video since no one else is really talking about this. But just to clarify before people take to the comment section, I do want to say this. I'm not saying that Linux is bad or that Linux shouldn't be popular. I'm saying that popularity isn't really the point of Linux since it's almost designed to cater to a certain niche really well, and it does an absolutely fantastic job of that, which is why I use and love Linux. So with that said, the title of today's video is Linux doesn't actually have to be mainstream, and that's okay. And we're going to be talking about that right now on the Linux Lounge. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining Odysee, the freedom-respecting alternative to YouTube. Links in the description. So, often in the Linux community, I see people getting caught up on Linux's market share, which sadly at the moment is pretty low, with most estimates placing it around 2%. Now, although I admit that it would be nice to have a higher market share, I often wonder what the concern with market share is really. What advantage would a higher market share really give us? Does Linux not already fit the needs of the community? Would a higher market share meaningfully impact Linux users? Honestly, probably not, and in today's video I want to talk about that. Now, first let's talk about why Linux will probably never have market dominance, unless you consider Android or Chrome OS obviously. Fundamentally, it's because most Linux distros aren't really designed for mainstream popularity. The kind of thing that's likely to get popular is Chrome OS and that sort of thing, which is the kind of operating system that your grandmother can use to file her taxes, browse Facebook, and whatever else most people do on their computer. Even operating systems like Ubuntu aren't that simple to use. Heck, these days even Windows is more complicated than what most people are willing to use. Now, that's not me calling people stupid. That's me saying that people expect to buy a computer and have it work a bit like an appliance. And I don't think that most of the Linux community, even people who are starting out using Linux, would appreciate that. I think that operating systems like Ubuntu are really designed more to make the Linux niche more accessible than to make Linux mainstream, which honestly is a good thing in my view. Distributions like Ubuntu seem to be very popular with new users and they seem to work really well. It's better to give people that want power and freedom access to it than to try and make something that will appeal to the masses while ultimately not being very powerful or free. Because remember, the kind of operating system that appeals to the masses is Chrome OS. Now, I do understand the reasons why people want more market share. One of the reasons is, of course, more hardware and software support. But ultimately, if we got that, would we really want it? Think about it. One of the purposes of Linux is to be free and open source. So it really makes me wonder, what percentage of the community would actually use all the proprietary stuff that would get ported over if we were more popular? Now, I understand the want for games and software like Microsoft Office and the Adobe Suite, but realistically, I think the two primary purposes of Linux are to be freedom respecting and to be community driven. So I think instead of pining for proprietary software and games, we should instead work on solutions in the community, which we are already. Programs like Kdenlive and Krita are almost as good as what you can find in the Adobe Suite. LibreOffice is frankly better than what you can find with Microsoft Office, and Proton is capable of playing a vast majority of Windows games. And in addition to all of that, we have one of the largest libraries of quality, free and open source software out there. All of that was done by the community with a market share of 2%, which is why I truly feel that we just don't really need a higher market share as much as it would be nice to have it. I feel like another reason why people might want a higher market share for Linux is ethical reasons. And I would agree, I too want Linux to have a higher market share. And interestingly enough, I don't actually see this reason discussed nearly as much as other reasons for wanting a higher market share for Linux. It really would be great though if we could get the whole planet using free and open source software. Unfortunately though, the world doesn't tend to work that way. It's fairly unlikely that we can get everyone on board with Linux and free software for the same reasons that other ethical causes can't get people on board too. It's just really hard to convince people of certain things because most people just won't be interested. Instead, I think it's better that we make sure that the people who want to use free software can, and try to educate other people as to why they should use free software and how they make the switch to free software. Now, I realise that this video isn't very idealistic, but I think that my point is ultimately that the Linux community is strong enough as is, and we don't need a huge market share. We have already got a great community of talented people providing high quality free software to the world. But with all of that said, those are just my opinions. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.